set.
All right, good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would someone move item 1.02, please? Move that the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
One correction, 7.03, what candidate withdrew, sorry, we got adjusted on here. There's 7.03, a candidate withdrew, so from the original, there's a change.
But it's correct on our...
It's correct on your agendas
resolution.
and online.
Okay. All right. If there's no other additions or corrections or discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Pass 6. Did I hear Lynn?
Yeah, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Pass 6-0-0. I need to share with you our evacuation procedure. In the event of an emergency, I would ask everyone to leave this room either from the door on that end of the library or on this end, and then ask you to move away from the building, and please do so in a calm and orderly fashion. Would you now join us in the pledge to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move into our public forum, I need to make a statement. The Board of Education of the Fulton City School District recognizes its responsibility to be accessible and to hear public comment, and therefore encourages public participation at Board of Education meetings. The Board of Education President is responsible for the orderly conduct of the meeting and shall rule on such matters as the time to be allowed for public discussion, the appropriateness of the subject being presented, and the suitability of the time for such a presentation. I would just say that there is a policy that says the time is 3 minutes per speaker, and we only run up to a half an hour. The Board of Education as a whole shall have the final decision in determining the appropriateness of all such rulings. It is expected that speakers will conduct themselves in a civil manner and will be ruled out of order for any statement that constitutes a direct threat against officers, employees, or students of the school district or that are obscene. No personal attacks will be tolerated, nor should any speaker address specific district personnel or students by name or suggestion. Questions or comments concerning matters that are not on the agenda will be taken under consideration and referred to the superintendent for appropriate action. Members of the community may comment on any matter related to district business. The board president may request a brief description of the topic the speaker plans to address. Anyone who wishes to address the board will be required to sign in with name, address, and topic. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single spokesperson. The public shall have the opportunity to address the Board of Education during a second public forum at the latter portion of the meeting to address any topics pertaining to the current agenda. The board requires individuals to state their name, address, and topic. Presentation should be as brief as possible, and no speaker will be permitted to speak for longer than 3 minutes. And if you'll give me a moment, I have to pick up the sheet.
You might have to turn the mic on for them. Yeah.
Oh, all right. No one signed up to speak this evening. So with that, we'll move on to action item 1.06 to approve the March 8th minutes. Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Pass 6-0-0. Item 1.07 to approve March 14th special meeting minutes.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Pass 6-0-0. Are there any questions regarding the President's report, meetings, upcoming meetings and events, and just a notation about that, April 25th, we're meeting, because that is the night we must meet to address the city budget, administrative portion of the budget. Is everybody good? Okay. I'm going to turn this meeting over now to our superintendent.
Good evening. Welcome everybody. Hope everybody's enjoying a bit of the sunnier weather out there. The first item on our agenda this evening is our Music in Our Schools Month. We're going to be moving on. Ms. Almeida is in here right now, or not. But we're going to be moving out into the foyer. Are they all set for us, Ms. Perry? So we're celebrating our Music in Our Schools Month throughout the entire month. If you haven't had the opportunity, we still have a couple of concerts left this week. Granby is tomorrow night, and Thursday night, I believe, is the 8th grade band at 6, and the senior high band is at 7:30. So we're going to move out into the foyer and listen to our students present.
Just you and me, huh, Tim?
Mm-hmm. I think they'll be back in a minute.
I know.
treat, thank you.
Just a special thank you just to our young musicians who did an outstanding job this evening, and our staff that's been working with them. They do truly an outstanding job, and they work, and the work they do is really making a difference for our kids. So, great night. Read to them. Ms. Hendrickson will be presenting this evening. We'll be doing our Read to Them program, so if you could do our overview, Ms. Hendrickson.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to share our excitement for our Read to Them program tonight, One District, One School. We are excited to talk about that in more detail and the experiences across the 4 elementary buildings. We're going to have one book that all the families will read together on a schedule, and we're going to decide that pretty quickly with our voting. So tonight I brought with me Mary Crucial. She's a retired school administrator and is the New York State representative for Read to Them, and Michelle Briggs, our K-12 instructional coach in a special area, who's been working with the 4 elementary librarians to roll out our program. We kicked it off this weekend at Parent University with having students and families vote, and we had a total of 64 votes so far this weekend, so we're going to continue that voting throughout the week, and Friday we'll tally up those results. So I'm going to turn the program over to Mary and Michelle to go into more detail about what's going on.
So, thank you, but first of all, I should let you know I'm actually a native of Oswego County. I graduated from Mexico in 1971, went on to be an educator, superintendent, and then retired. Came back. I now live in New Haven, New York. I am the New York State representative, but I'm really your neighbor. I'm also the member of the Literacy Council of Oswego County. I'm on the advisory boards on the Education Library. Right now, Patrick DeWin and Mike Egan and I have been working very hard for more funding to keep that program going. And I'm also the board president for our local ministry in Oswego County for the homeless. So I'm pretty engaged in Oswego County, but literacy was always my passion and work. So how did I get involved? I was the superintendent at McGraw, and one of my colleagues at Watertown City School District was bringing the Read to Them program to her district. I started asking a lot of questions and brought it to our district. It was a great hit. And as I was retiring from home to Oswego County, the founding father, I call him Gary Anderson, I'll tell you about him, and then he was like, why don't you come and work for us? Bring the program to New York. And I was like, sure. I have much else to do. So that's how I got involved. I really did have a lot to do. I have 14 grandchildren, 4 children. But anyway, so here's the history. Read to Them is a not-for-profit, and I think it's a national not-for-profit. And the program started with Gary Anderson. He'd been a child psychologist for 40 years down in Richmond, Virginia, where predominantly he shared with me one day that he saw young black men going to jail because they couldn't read and there was no family structure in the home. And that was a real burden for him. So him and a colleague, Bruce Coffey, started in the garage, in the trunk of their car, just handing out books. Not really knowing how to start, but that's how they started. Eventually they became incorporated. It was first launched as Read Love International and then became Read to Them. Their signature program that you're participating in is, there's 2. One school, one book, and one district, one book. Fulton is participating in the one district, one book, and actually this is your 3rd year in the program. The first year, when I first came to Oswego County, I worked with the Shinman Foundation and wrote a grant, and Oswego Fulton in Mexico participated in the program. And then there was a little hiatus in the pandemic, but then last year Heather Witter, she kept emailing me, Mary, can you help me get grant money? I went, I don't know, in the middle of the pandemic, but we did. I'm happy to tell you, I also got roped into being a member of the Fulton Lions Club because last year they helped you finish the grant, right? They gave us $3,700. I gotta tell you, they were so excited about participating, you would have thought we gave them $3,700, and I'm serious about that. They were excited. Of course, we got $5,000 from the Jim Mahine Foundation, and I didn't have time to look up where we got the rest of the money, but we did get grant money last year, and I'm glad that Heather was persistent. Just so you know, the mission of Reach of Them is to create a culture of literacy in every home. That's their passion, family engagement and literacy. As a principal, as a superintendent, and even when I was a teacher, and actually I was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of years, so I was very involved in my Sandy Creek School District where I lived. So family engagement was always important to me, engaging with the school district, with my own children, their education. So that's nothing new to me. But really what's important in our program is that every child gets a book and gets to keep a book. We know that literacy is key to bringing kids out of poverty and families out of poverty, so that's our mission. So the One School, One Book, or the One District, One Book provides the structure and materials for a community reading event. This program is where the whole community reads the same book on a common reading schedule, but the school district sets up that schedule. And I just want to sidebar here, I want to tell you, Fulton right now has always done a phenomenal job, right out of the gate. All 2 years, and then this year I've been really excited about what they're doing. What do we provide? Every child receives a book to own, but we also have all the materials that you need. We provide them, materials for the school, materials for parents, materials for the students, for the community, a book for every student. We have a digital resource hub now with every book, which is, gives you like Flipgrid, Kahoot, those kind of things. And also, everything's included in one price, just so you know that. Shipping and handling, shipping and handling, materials. We send you posters, bookmarks. I actually gave you a sample bookmark today. I also gave you a small pamphlet you can look at and a pen. Now, the typical structure, how this works, is we really feel the school is really the structure that provides the program for the parents, but the school typically will set up a stakeholder committee, right, with PTA members, with your school librarian or your public librarian, however you want to be on the committee, and then they choose the book. Now, what you're doing is you're getting to vote on the book. So I was at your parent university on Saturday, and kids and parents would come along. It was cool. And it's, I don't know, just good to be with kids again, right? And families to come out of the house and be with people. Once you select your book, the grant that I've written, which I'll talk about that in a minute, will provide everything you need. They're going to let me know what the book is. We're going to take, the order. We're going to set everything up. We're going to ship the books to each building, whatever they tell me to do. We take care of everything. And then once you launch, I'm still here to support Renee and Michelle with anything that they need. Usually a launch is, live, and the launches that I've been involved in, they've been live, but of course, during the pandemic, it's been virtual. And I'm not really sure, sometimes you do one launch for the whole district, sometimes schools will do each little launch in their building. It's really, up to them, but I will share a little story with you. Pre-pandemic, when Oswego was doing Ivan, the one and only Ivan, which is a great book. The mayor and I went to Minetto. All the children were sitting on the cafeteria floor. I thought this was one of the greatest things I've seen in all the districts I've been in. And the principal asked us to hand out bananas to all the kids. And so the kids were sitting on the cafeteria floor. We were handing out bananas, and before she was going to read about 10 pages, the principal, she brought up a live video of Ivan and his caretaker when he was alive. Yeah, now all learning is social and emotional. So when kids were watching this live video of Ivan when he learned how to paint and when he was doing sign language, and then I've never forgotten this little idiosyncrasy, because I hadn't read the book yet. When it rained, he would not come out of his cave. They had to put burlap potato bags down back then. It was pretty cool. And then the principal read 10 pages, and do you want to know what happened? Every kid left on the bus engaged to that book, right? And that's what we want to do. And then we know parents are busy, but we know that it's really important that parents need to be reading to their kids at home. Let me lastly tell you about the grant this year and why I wrote the grant. I'm your neighbor. I actually have a full address, but I'm in the Mexico School District. I live in New Haven. When the pandemic started and I saw what was happening with my own grandchildren as I was trying to tutor them and be with them and watching them online and teachers trying to teach reading, and then I started talking to different districts and talking to some administrators at Syracuse because they also have a grant. We came to realize that kids were probably going to come back 1 to 2 years behind reading, right? And I realized that school districts could not lift that issue alone. I really felt parents would really need to kind of be involved. And I did a lot of research, and parents that were engaged were where school districts provided a lot of good materials to parents. So your grant, the title is Reading Regression Recovery, the 3 R's created by the pandemic. And so in the grant to the Cabrini Health Foundation, that's what I talked about, was literacy loss. And the fact that we wanted to bring the community together and helping to lift this issue. Now, the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation, that they have a lot of money. The money is only for New York. And the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation was formed because the bishops owned the Fidelis Insurance Company. And when it got sold, somehow the state had some control on how they were going to manage that money. And they set up a health foundation with lots of money that's only for New York. And their foundation is education, young mothers, poverty, health issues, young children. And so I'm glad to say that we wrote the grant for Fulton, Oswego, Lafayette, Normal, and we also wrote one for the Syracuse City District. So I just want to thank you for letting me be here tonight, and I really want to say thank you for participating in this great program.
Hi everybody, I'm Michelle Briggs. So my role this year has been to work as the instructional coach for our K-12 special area and electives, which has been quite a learning experience for me. I have been working specifically for this with Renee and Mary's guidance with the very talented elementary librarians that we have. And so when we first started talking about this, one of the things we wanted to do was to respectfully, Mary, stretch that idea of literacy in every home to really expand on the idea of home to be our entire community. And so a lot of our focus has been going off of the parent university focus, or theme of Fulton in Focus, and think about how are some ways that we're going to be able to engage our entire community in this book and how we're going to read it. And so one of the first things we had thought about was getting more say from other people in parts of our community in what the book choice would be. So we started with a grouping, a large group of books. We took all the books that were available to us, went through, thought about what are some of our needs, how would, are there topics, are there themes that we are looking for, are there things that we think that would be of the biggest interest to our students and their families. And from a list of maybe 18 to 20, we narrowed it down to these 4, and have decided that the best way to make a book choice was to include the students who are going to be reading the book. From there, the librarians have worked to create some fantastic posters to talk about each of the books, have worked to find little video trailers that talk about the books, and they are introducing the books in their library classes this week so that the students who, obviously we're not here, not everyone was at Parent University, but all students have the opportunity to vote. They have also been extremely excited about brainstorming different ways that we can engage with the community. So Mrs. Summers, one of our librarians, was able to be at Parent University. I know she enjoyed that event as well. And we're also looking at how we can get the book out more, not just the parents of, or the families of our students that we have in school, but all of their families. And really being thoughtful and creative about how we can pull other people into this so it really becomes about one district. Mary has been kind enough to support some of that work. She's helping to connect us with some other districts that have used social media and have tried some other ways of engaging their families around this book. And so we're excited about some possibilities that are in the works, depending on, sorry. So some different possibilities about how we can encourage and make this a fun event for the kids starting in June and then finishing up over the summer.
So thank you to Mary and Renee and for their events, and we're excited about being able to really work at how we can scale this up now that we are in our 3rd year. Thank you.
So we're just, again, thank you for the opportunity to present our ideas tonight. And on your way out, if you didn't get a chance to vote at Parent University, we have
Ms. Hendrickson and team this evening. Ms. Curcio, as well as Ms. Briggs, did a great job. Thank you so much leading this project each year. It really makes a difference. I enjoy watching it. I like participating as well. Bringing that along with the kids. Next item on our agenda this evening is the 2022-23 instructional calendar. I don't know if you can put it up on the screen or not. You should have it in your door backup. I don't know if you can get it up there. You had it in your board backup, and as well it's been posted on the public site for your review. The calendar has 186 days per contract, 95 days from September to January, and then 91 through the end of the year. With school starting, we have in our contract, we have a staff orientation day that we will be having on September the 1st, which is the Thursday before Labor Day. We'll have a superintendent's conference day, the day after Labor Day, with the first day of classes to begin on September 7th. As far as moving in through October, we have our Columbus Day holiday. We move into November, we have a superintendent's conference day on November 4th. We've also built in 2 early release days for pre-K through 6 to accommodate conferences, which we're still working on the final details, but in the past, we've come in and added those days in the past. We wanted to get those days into the calendar, but those are going to be for the early release for conferences. In December, we have an early release on December 23rd. That's to accommodate with our conferencing, our student-led conferences, all of those pieces. Holiday recess is there. January, Regents Week is highlighted. And then we move into February. The February break in alignment with the President's holiday is the week of the 20th, with a Superintendent's Conference Day on February 3rd. That, if you remember, that's the day we do our really data-heavy review. It's our semester kind of reset, so it's perfect timing to do that. And we're seeing some of the outcomes of that adjustment that we did in February already here in March, based on some of the feedback that I'm getting from the schools. In March, we have an early release, pre-K-12 on that day, as well as, I believe, the December one, I should have said was pre-K-12 as well. April recess is April 3rd through 7th. And then we move into May, and all of the tested range for the New York State testing is in there as well. And then finally we move into June. New day this year is built in, is the Juneteenth observation is built into our calendars now, so that's there as well. With the last day of classes in school on the 22nd, with a last day rating day / superintendent's conference day is on the 23rd of June. Are there any questions with respect to the calendar?
And this calendar lines up with the rest of the county for both versus the city BOCES?
Yes, with exception of we've got our 4th superintendent's conference day that we've had holding on June 23rd. Others are looking at March 13th, possibly, is where they're at. Right now, we are not on that day at this point in time. Many of those districts don't do the February date, but we would still accommodate our city BOCES. We feel strongly that February date is probably one of the most important dates to reset for the remainder of the year, regrouping for kids based on data and so forth. Any questions? I believe there's a resolution this evening. Is that correct, Ms. Perry? Next item this evening is the budget update. Mr. Lisi, you could put that up there. That's the. So you want to do the financial summary first?
Sorry, my apologies. Do you want to do this or the fund
If you'd
reserve?
like to go ahead.
Sure, I'll do this first. Thank you. So for period ending February 28th, 2022, financial summary, I'll just go through the current year-to-date figures for our revenue. Our locals a little over 22.8 million. Our state revenues a little over 23.3 million. Federal 117,000, all in line with last year's and this year's budget. So our total revenue figures for this year, current year-to-date, are 46.2 million. Our expenditures, salaries, a little over 18 million. Benefits, 11.4 million. Equipment and capital outlay, 259,000. Contractual supplies and other, 11.4 million. Supplies, 739,000. Our debt service principal and debt service interest, the first being 268,000, the second 830,000. Those are a little higher than normal, just because we have younger bonds that we've taken on this year as part of our capital improvement and of course our debt schedule. But we expect those will be those will be adjusted by June 30th by the end of the year. So our total expenditures year to date, approximately $43 million, and again, in line with our yearly budget and the previous year to date figures. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Bovino.
Thank you. Are there any questions with respect to the financials? Hearing none, we'll move on to the final item is the budget update. What we've wanted to provide, we haven't gone over yet this year, is the reserve fund or the fund balances that we have as they're set. You can see they're set up from June 30th, 2019 through what we're projecting. The projection is rather conservative at the moment for June 30th as we're still working through expenditures. The cost of doing business obviously is changing. We see that nationally, just in the cost of food, gas, so on and so forth. So again, we're monitoring those pieces as well at the present time. If you remember, we've been working each year. Our fund balance has gone up progressively. The goal is always 4%. We are actually at 5.4 at the moment from last year. You can see we had $95,000 that we moved into the fund balance in 19, in 20, $1.2 million. In 6/30/21, 2.565, and that was a unique COVID year last year. And then this year is projected at 281 and 298. Now that is very conservative. That's taking into consideration a couple of the contract obligations that we have through the end of the year, through some retirements and other kinds of things. So we're making a projection. Those numbers, that would be the least amount. I think that number will probably go up a bit as well. The other piece that came out in the last week or so was the Assembly One House and the Senate One House budgets came out and were approved as far as theirs. Now they go into working together to finalize a final budget. One of the areas there is really looking at will they pass a 6 or 8% cap for our foundation or for our fund balances. And that's going to be an important number across the state for a lot of school districts. So we're looking at that. If you recall from the original budget presentation by our governor back in January, she talked about the state wanting to have a 15% reserve. So we're looking at that and watching that very closely. But as we go through the budget process, that'll be the next step. The other piece that you'll have at the next board meeting will be, we're looking at some final staffing numbers as far as course selections, numbers, staffing, also looking at our special education numbers and staffing just to make sure that we're coming in to appropriately be staffed and provide the resources necessary to meet the needs of kids. And we're looking at all areas with respect to the inflationary costs as well. So those will be reflected in our budget that we present on April 5th. The other thing that we'll have on April 5th, hopefully we'll have a passed New York State budget to work with actual numbers. And that would be a good thing. We have hit that the last couple of years. So that's an important meeting. So the idea would be bring the presentation on the 5th. We could bring it back on the 19th. And then if there are still adjustments that the board wants us to consider and make, we do have a special board meeting set for the 25th of April, which would still keep us within the window for the city budget. So if necessary, we could add that there if necessary. Hopefully the 19th we'll have things all set up and set. The other piece I'd like to say and thank all of our assemblymen and senators in the state of New York, the forgiveness bill, they did pass it in each one of theirs. So I'm hoping that that's taken care of. That's something that's been hanging over Fulton's really was something we've had to deal with for the last 4 years. Hopefully this will be
And the governor put it in her budget.
And the governor had it in her budget for the first time. The governor has it in
Yes,
the
so I
budget.
don't want to forget, because that's always been our problem, is all three.
Yep.
So they're all three in agreement, it would appear this year, so that's really good news.
Yeah. So you've received the Assembly and the Senate analyses previously, so if you have any questions about those as well. So that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report this evening. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Palomino.
Sure.
Can you explain how we can have a 5% reserve over the surplus?
We're over. I mean,
Right,
it's
that's what
simply
I mean.
we're
So how
over.
can we do that without, I mean, what are our plans for that?
So there'll be a couple things. It's a great question, Jess. One of the things we can obviously look at is the importance of, that's why I pointed out, will the Senate and the House and the governor come to a number where they're going to move that number to 6 or 8%? Right now, there wasn't as much discussion as I would like to see there. The other piece, obviously, the way the COVID impacted districts, you're going to find many districts went over. We would look at, would you utilize part of those or partials to balance, the budget? The last one we ran was approximately 327, but then remember we had that 266, which we still haven't gotten confirmation. So I think that number is closer to 600 right now. And as we look at adjustments with respect to possible staffing adjustments in special education, others that might push that up a little bit. So we could look at using parts of reserves. If you look at the current budget that we're in, I think presently, we used a bit of fund balance last year to balance the budget. So that's one way we could go about that. I think we always have to keep in mind that we have to be thinking out 3 to 5 years. And it was interesting when we were going through the small cities budget seminars. We don't know, we know that, and thank you to all of the elected officials that have made sure that the foundation formula this year for the first time, districts, for us, it was over 5%, we were at 90%, so we're gonna be about 95 and change. And then with the next year, one more year from now, that'll push us the rest of the way. The question comes up that third year out. And there's really a lot of questions. A number of school districts across the state of New York, they were held harmless because they were already at their capacities, but all of those districts received 3%. The question is, will the state continue that type of trend afterwards? And for us, 3% means closer to 1.2 million versus 2.1 million. $2.2 million, $1,000 is what our increase was this year, the foundation aid. So that's how we would look at that. Obviously, you don't like to be over, but at the same time, we were a district that was under. We did fill all of our different reserve accounts last year. We went to our capacity, so we're in very good fiscal shape. We have to remember that every time that we take money out of the fund balance or the reserves, the issue is that's taking out of savings, if you will, and you automatically create a gap in the next budget when you roll ahead in the next year. So we have to constantly be thinking about that. The other challenge that we have, not being able to go out more than 2 years, is that we have 30 positions right now that are on our funded programs. And we have to start making priorities and determine what are those areas that we want to ensure that we need to have the capacity for 2 and 3 years down the road, that we find that they're extremely important, we have to have in place. And so we have to prioritize those 30 positions and really take a good look at that. That's generally about a $2.4 to $2.5 million amount to kind of give it some quantify that number. We use somewhere between right around $100,000. When we're doing positions, things like that. So, again, we try to be conservative. I think the other piece is this inflationary piece.
I was going to say
well.
they talked to us, as small cities representatives from the Senate talked about inflation and, representatives from the Senate at small cities meeting last week talked about, mentioned the inflation, and hopefully we can keep pace with that and match what that's going to look like. And Brian's right about that number. We thought there was gonna be more money. No one's seen it yet, so not so sure about that. And there's some controversy right now in the budget discussions in Albany, so I don't know how I'm feeling right now about the numbers. I'm hoping they're firm, but until some of that's sorted out. But I don't think it's gonna be there long. I think inflation's gonna address a portion of it, just in fuel for the buses. I think fuel costs are gonna be an issue.
So I think a lot of people are watching things. It's a great question.
Yeah. And fair for everyone to know, so thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention, Janice.
Are there any other questions with respect to the budget? So our next meeting, we'll get some real numbers, hopefully, and have some real tangible things that we can work with. If there are no other questions, I'll turn it back to the president.
Thank you. So item 4.01, financials. Move it.
Second.
Any discussion on any of these items? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Lynn, did I hear you?
Aye.
Thank you. Pass 600. Item 4.02, approved disposal of surplus property.
Move it.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Passed 600. Item 4.03, approve adjustment to corrective action plan.
Move it.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passed 600. Are there any questions on the policies that are in front of us tonight for first reading? Okay. New business. Item 6.01, approve the Committee on Special Education
Move it.
recommendations. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Passed 600. Item 6.02, approve vehicle proposition.
Move it.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, is this a, wait for one moment, no. I'm going to ask Mrs. Perry to do a roll call. Thank you, Mrs. Perry.
Mrs. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elder,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. Cordez is not here, Mrs. Mango,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bigelow.
Yes.
Okay, item 6.03, approve resolution to announce the 2022 annual meeting.
Move it.
Second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, and abstentions? Passed 600. Item 6.04, approve election inspectors.
Move it.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Abstain.
Passed 501. Item 6.05,
Move
approve,
it.
pardon me?
Move it.
Okay. To approve the instructional calendar, approve the instructional calendar for 2022-23.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passed 600. Would you like to batch items 7.01 through 7.05?
Move it.
Second.
Discussion on any of those items?
I
All
have a
those in
question.
favor?
I have a
Yep,
question.
go ahead.
I was just wondering about the mentor positions. Are you allowed to ask who they're mentoring and why now? Just wondering. A mentor to me, just in my brain, I think of a new teacher beginning at the beginning of a school year. I'm just wondering. I don't know.
I'll ask
what
Ms.
it's
Geiger to comment.
So we had a newly appointed teacher
for. Okay.
and one who had been in what we thought was a short-term replacement is no longer a term replacement.
Okay.
And the principal has recommended them.
Okay, so they're just new to the district.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are we all set? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Passed 600. Item 7.06, appoint the community school summer program
Move it.
Second.
coordinator. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Passed 501. Would you like to batch items 7.07 through 7.14?
Move it.
Second.
Discussion?
Did you say 7.14?
Through 7.14, yeah.
Or 1 4.
I have questions.
Yep.
So, I had a rough week, personally, on a personal note. And the last I thought was going to happen, and maybe it didn't, or maybe it did happen, we were going to have a draft, like a flow chart, describing the duties and the responsibilities, like clearly listed and bulleted, on the site for all the stakeholders. I've had some teachers in the district come to me and ask what the responsibilities would be for the deputy superintendent. They just don't understand what it is or where it is, and I just feel like being transparent, and understood moving forward, especially from the top, and the teachers and all the stakeholders and everybody involved in the building, and them feeling comfortable with what's happening, is very important, because I think there's just confusion and they just don't understand what's happening. Some, maybe some do, but, so, is that something we can discuss now, before we
Well,
vote?
the job description, was that
The
shared
job
in backup?
description.
Last, I forget what,
In tonight's.
in tonight's backup.
The contracts were shared.
The
I
contract,
think
I'm
what Ms.
talking about the
Manuel's
job
talking about is the
descriptions.
roles and responsibilities and
Yes.
the job descriptions.
Right,
No, we were gonna, I believe we were gonna put those out, at a later date. I didn't realize that we did not turn those, if we want to delay, we can. And we can get those to you before, I mean, again, I would like to get these appointments taken care of. as
I
soon
would
as
like to
possible.
get the appointments taken
Again,
care of too,
I
but
understand.
I just really feel, just as a teacher, I would wanna know.
Sure.
I don't wanna hold anything up, but I think it's really
so
important for
I
them to
guess what,
understand.
okay, so I need to be clear so I can help.
Sure,
So you want them not just for you want them publicly posted, what, I mean, and what are you?
correct,
Okay.
publicly posted, so,
That's what I wanna be clear on.
yes,
All right.
because of, yeah,
Yes, all right. So I would recommend that you ask that we table, which would mean this comes back at the very next meeting to be voted
Okay.
on.
I think that's,
Is that
yes, please.
gonna work, everybody?
So just those two, so you need to do the batch different.
I will have to do the batch different, yes.
Robin?
Yes. Yes.
Also, to go along with that, I have been asked a couple times about if these are their new jobs, and are we going to fill the jobs these people have already?
No, we've repurposed, if you recall from the presentation that we did at the last board meeting.
I know that, and I did explain, but I have been getting phone calls as well as to what's going on, I
So
guess.
if we could take a minute and just talk about, these folks are doing these jobs.
Absolutely, and that's what I told the people I talked to, but they do have questions out there because they were not sure
So,
exactly what was happening.
what you're
I
doing-
did explain it.
Thanks, Lynn. And what you're going to see coming forward would be also the staffing chart's going to change the way that looks, which we saw. Brian shared that with the board. And we approved that, gave them a nod.
Again, I didn't have any questions about it, I understood it, and I did explain it, but I did have 5 phone calls about it, so.
Right, but just for the record, I mean, the board did see it, the board did approve moving forward, but yes, to share, and the board did get in our backup the job description, but it wasn't shared on the public portion. So that we can do, and we can take care of that. So.
Well, I explained to the people that called me that they're already doing the job, just now they're gonna have a title to go with the job.
Right.
It was really a repurposing and a restructuring of all the positions that we had, and been doing a better alignment of our strategic coherence plan. And if you recall, there was one addition of a position to the early childhood aspect of our component, with a focus on birth through 2nd grade, which we felt, based on what we're seeing as far as the challenges and the uniqueness of early childhood as kids are transitioning through, we're seeing different types of gaps, and we really wanted to put a lens very heavily on that end of the continuum. So that was the role there. So in the end, if you remember, we also talked about that there was cost neutral as well. So it was really, creative the way we were going about doing that.
And you did explain all this at a prior meeting, I'm just telling you.
Sure, no,
Okay,
that's fine.
okay.
Again, a lot of times people have to digest the information and just need to know what the questions are, and we can easily and want to provide all the information possible.
All right.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go back and restate what we are going to do. I'm going to ask if you would like to batch item 7.07 through 7.12.
Yes. Move it.
All right, any discussion on any of those items? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Pass 501. Item 7.13, you're going to move, this is where you're going to move the table. This is Mako.
Okay.
Move it.
No, she's going to move the table.
Okay.
Move to table.
All right, so that's going to be moved to table to our next meeting.
Do you need a second on that?
I don't believe you do for a table,
Okay.
but you want to do it just in case I'm wrong?
Sure.
Okay. I don't have my handy dandy chart right here, but unless there's an expert here on Robert's rules. I haven't tabled in a while. I don't believe you do,
We
but,
did do a second on the last
I
table.
think we did it just to cover.
okay, yep. So Brenda's gonna give us a second. Thank you. Item 7.14. Mrs. Mainville?
Move it.
Nope, we're not gonna move it.
Move to table.
Oh,
Move to
is that
table.
the numbers on table?
I thought we batched them. I'm sorry. Move to table, please.
All right, I didn't, I wasn't thinking.
Sorry.
All right, and Mrs. Amical?
Sure, a second.
Okay, thank you. See, we can get through this. All right,
Did we vote all in favor? Did we do that?
all right, so now we are in board forum. Mr. Crandall, want to kick us off tonight?
Oh, sure, I want to thank everybody from the music department for the great work.
You might know.
Let's speak loud enough. I just want to thank everybody from the music department. As always, they do great work. Anything else?
All right, all right, Mrs. Mainville?
Yes, thank you to the music department. The kids did a great job. It's always nice to see what our students are doing, so thank you for that. Thank you for the presentation about the one book. I think that's a really great idea, and I'm excited for that, and I might even read too. I might even read that book. Thank you for tabling. I think it's just so important that if people have questions, that we have a chance, they have a chance to have them answered. We might know what's going on, but you only know what you know. So thank you for that. I think that's very important. Seeing all the kids on the turf past couple days has been amazing, and I know that we've faced some challenges already for the spring season, but I really hope that we can come together, be there for our kids, and support our kids, and have the best spring season for our athletic teams that we can. And that's it.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Page, how would you like to take your turn?
I think Mr. Crandall and Mrs. Mainville hit on basically what I was going to say, but I do want to make a comment on the Read to Them program. I think it's a great program. I don't believe when I was in elementary school I really had something like that, and it's just beautiful. To me, it's just beautiful. Everything they said was like, wow, it's really, really cool. So that's all I have to say, but thank you.
Thank you. And Jess?
Okay, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who came here to listen. Thanks to Renee and her group. I'm wondering if at all possible, I know that there's probably some parents that may not be around or as active with their kids reading, and I know that we do a lot with Google, and I'm just wondering if maybe we could look into like doing a Google Meet every night that the kids can sign into and a teacher can read, or not every night, whenever they do the reading. And I also think if we are able to open that up to any 7 through 12 students that would be interested in participating as well, if that's a possibility, I think that that's a good idea too. I know that we're focused on the younger kids, but I don't want to forget about our other book lovers out there. So
Maybe they would be volunteer readers.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's all.
Thank you. Mrs. Apple?
What a wonderful treat to hear from our young, talented musicians this evening. Music in Our Schools Month has always been one of my favorite months out of the year. The kids that were in the musical were fantastic. It's been great to be able to listen to some of the concerts going on throughout the month. I also want to say Parent University this past weekend was really a nice energy. Walking into the building, seeing families, educators back together, people from the community, The sun was shining outside, but inside it was so happy, and the energy was just so positive. So that was great to be part of that. So wonderful to be back in person for that. I still missed the lunch, Mrs. Wagner. I guess maybe the Italian in me talks a little too much, but. So I'm just really excited for all the things that are coming forward in with our students. The one book, one district. I'm excited. I'm going to cast my vote tonight too. I can't wait to see what book gets pulled for our district. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Parent University, yes, Brenda, thank you for highlighting that. It was a really great day, and for all the reasons that you said. The elementary students that performed tonight, outstanding, really enjoyed it, and they were very, very good. Again, keeps going on. The elementary students were very, very good this evening. I am really excited about one school, one book. I can't wait to see where that goes, and Jessica, what a great idea to maybe find volunteer readers. And I was thinking that perhaps when you're looking to reach out in the community, I always found that pediatricians' offices are a great way to reach out to young families with young children and post stuff. I want to take a moment to thank our elected officials in Albany for all the work they've been doing on the budget and all the consideration that they've given to the educational needs of our kids across New York State. And I hope that they continue. It keeps going on. I apologize for my mic. It keeps shutting off.
Can't we put that in the budget to get some money from New York?
There it goes again. I don't know. I'm going to try to speak nice and loud. I'm going to speak really loud. It went off again. So I just want to take a moment. If you happen to run into any of our elected officials, please thank them for their efforts. It's really nice to not have to beg quite as hard this year as we have in past years. So they recognize that we have needs, and they're stepping up to help us with the resources so that we can meet them. With that said, we are now at the second public forum portion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I say something?
Who did I? Oh, Lynn, yes, I'm so sorry. I apologize very big.
No problem. Everybody did a wonderful job tonight. I thank everybody. I'm very proud of everyone that contributes to our system. Everybody should be proud. I want to say thank you to Tim for allowing me to be here tonight. He worked hard to make sure I could do this, so thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Lynn. And also, while saying thank you, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how much I appreciated all of the folks that came out to make Parent University what it was. We had a lot of community people that showed up, and when you walk through the hallway to realize that they were all extra pairs of hands trying to help us meet the mission. So again, my thanks to all of those community agencies and the folks that work for them, and the outreach that they continue to do to try to help our students and their families. So now we are at the second public forum. And so if anyone would like to address a topic on tonight's agenda, now is the time. Is there anyone interested in speaking on tonight's agenda? Okay, I don't see anyone. So if someone would move item 9.01 to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Pass 6-0-0. I thank you for coming this evening. I thank those of you who may be watching this evening. We do appreciate it, and feel free to